The world's oceans are no longer neutral water. They are battlegrounds of power, sanction, and raw authority. And here, the United States has just made another move, basically a move that has left Vladimir Putin really angry. You're watching Times XP. It's me, Dhriti Yatri. Let me explain what really happened here. So, in a pre dawn operation, US forces quietly moved in on another oil tanker that is linked to Venezuela's shadowy oil network. The ship's name? MT Sophia. Basically, there were no warning shots, no resistance, no dramatic chase, just control, swift and decisive. This particular tanker was not flying a clear flag, and that detail it really matters. US officials say that the vessel was effectively stateless, sailing in international waters while trying to hide its identity. How? By switching off its tracking system, by masking its ownership, by operating in what experts call a dark mode. Well, this is a classic tactic used by sanctioned oil networks to move crude quietly across oceans, unseen, undocumented, and untaxed. In the meantime, the US Southern Command confirmed it plainly. The interception was clean, there were no injuries, and there was no clash. The tanker is now being escorted by the US Coast Guards towards American waters, where it will face legal action and a final decision on its fate. Basically, in simple words, the ship is gone, the oil route it is broken, but the seizure it did not happen in isolation either. In fact, just days earlier, Washington had already seized a Russian-linked oil tanker that is tied to the same Venezuelan oil ecosystem. Two ships, back-to-back operations, and one clear message. The United States is done issuing warnings now. But you know why this matters so much? Because Venezuela's oil, it does not move alone. It moves through networks, supported by allies, middlemen, and friendly powers, and Russia is one of them. So, when the US takes a ship that is connected to that particular system, Moscow sees it not as law enforcement but as a direct challenge. And that's where Vladimir Putin he enters the entire story. The Kremlin erupted in anger, too much anger. Russian officials accused Washington of overreach. They questioned the legitimacy of the seizure. They warn that such actions tear apart international norms. But notice something important here. Russia did not deny the existence of the shadow fleet. It did not deny sanction evasion. Instead, Moscow urged something else entirely. It is the power that decides the rule. The US is abusing its power now. This is the real clash here, not over one ship, not over one tanker, but over who controls the global system. Washington says sanctions mean nothing if they aren't enforced. Moscow says enforcement without consent. It is wrong. Two worldviews colliding at the sea. For the US, this is about choking illegal oil money, cutting off cash, weakening sanctioned regime, breaking supply chain that fund the defiance here. For Russia, this is about precedent. If the US can seize ships today, what stops it tomorrow? And don't miss the timing here. This comes right after Washington's dramatic move against Nicolas Maduro himself, a leader long protected by Russia's political and economic backing. First the man, now the money, now the ship. The pressure, it is systematic. The big question is what happens next? Will Russia really respond at the sea? Will more shadow vessels disappear? Will this push the entire world closer to open confrontation on international waters? Because when oil routes become targets and when superpowers start enforcing rules with force, the ocean, it stops being highways. It becomes frontline, and tonight, that frontline has just moved closer.